Hey guys, it's Guido coming at you with a tactics talk and a tank review of the Tier 9 German medium tank, the Leopard PTA. Been in the game for quite a long time. I recently had a subscriber ask me for a how-to on Leopard PTA, so we'll just do a full-blown review on this. What we'll do is a general overview. As usual, we'll take a look at the tech tree, some of the ins and outs on that. I'll do a comparison with some of the other Tier 9 medium tanks out there. Then we will look at my setup, how I've done in the tank, and I've got 3 gameplay examples for you on how to Leopard PTA. So let's get started. General overview, very fast tank, quite mobile, pretty large, very soft, awful armor on this thing, punchy gun, but quite a long reload on it, which makes some interesting gameplay choices as a medium at Tier 9. If you look at my garage right there of all the Tier 9s that I own, if I sat down and said, I'm going to play a Tier 9 medium, this is probably near the last on my list. Probably near the last on my list. So general overview for that, pretty good tank. Let's jump into the tech tree and take a look at this. There's a few ins and outs on the Leopard PTA. How do you get to the Leopard PTA? You can come through this medium line right here through the 3002D, jumps down to the Indian and straight on to the Leopard. Another option is to come through the light tank line through here, SPIC to the Hawk, jump up to the Leopard. You can do that as well. So the Hawk actually splits off to the Leopard and the RU. A couple things to think about right there. The Leopard 1, the Leopard PTA, and the Indian Panzer are all 4-place crew tanks, whereas the 3002 is a 5-place and a couple of these back here as well, which means you're going to drop a crew member jumping from the 3002 to the Indian. Indian has 4 and then on to the Leopard. You've got an issue also if you go through the light tanks. The SPIC and the Hawk both have 3 guys. So when you jump to the Leopard, you're going to be short a crew member. Maybe a worse problem than dropping an experienced guy on a 5 crew member tank that you had earlier on. Also realize the RU-251 has 4 crew, so you still have the same issue if you're going from the Hawk to the RU-251. So those are kind of the ins and outs on how you get to the Leopard PTA. Jump back to the garage, and we are going to go ahead and do a comparison now. These are the other tanks, not all of them, but a selection of the other Tier 9 tanks out there, the E50, the Patton, Centurion, T54, Skoda, and the AMX 30. So if you take a look at what we've got going on, the penetration, or sorry, average damage is pretty good. It's right up there. There's a lot of tanks with 390, so it's at the top of its class. So the penetration is tied with the Centurion for best, and this is with regular AP. The gold round is a heat round, has very good penetration as well. Also, just for your SA, all these configurations are no equipment, no camo, crews at 100%, everybody with the top modules, each tank with top modules, just so we get an idea of what it is baseline once you elite it and before you throw on your various crew skills and whatnot on top of that. You can see the rate of fire is down there low, like I said. The Centurion, or sorry, yeah, down there fairly low, not quite as bad as some, but not great. Reload times at 988. You've got a couple others that are a little bit above it. Coming down to turret traverse is good. All those numbers are within tolerances for a Tier 9 medium. Not too crazy good, but it's all right. Gun depression is decent. Standard German tank. It doesn't have a whole lot of gun depression, but it's got most than some. So it can be used a bit on ridge fighting, but clearly it's not as nice as a Patton or a Centurion with that -10 right there. Not too bad. Aiming time is pretty decent. It actually will aim in pretty quick. It is an accurate gun, a little bit wonky. I would not say it's as bad as the AMX 30's gun as far as being wonky, but it's pretty close. Sometimes you're going to take shots and really wonder what on earth happened. Dispersion's pretty low, not bad, and then your DPM is at 2300. Which is on the low side for these tanks. You look at the AMX 30, it's up at 2800, so a little bit low. And that'll play into how you play this tank, because you're not going to run forward and out DPM people and just start machine gunning them in the face. This tank does not do that very well. Survivability is very low, as you can see. The game recognizes that its armor is terrible. Holes at 70, that's even worse than an AMX 30, for goodness sake. And it's only barely better than a Skoda, which is known for being soft. But I think the biggest thing right now that this tank has going against it in the meta, and this is interesting because it hasn't been buffed yet, is the turret armor is terrible. And if you look at these other tanks where their turret armors have recently been buffed, Got 254 on the Centurion, 240 on the T-54. Goodness, it's even 120 on the Skoda 150 and 150 on the AMX-30. And like I said, some of these tanks have been buffed recently, and I think really that the developers are starting to use gold as the baseline for balancing their armor to pen. And for whatever reason, the Leopard PTA has been left out in the cold, or it's just going to be ignored, or they haven't got to it. I'm not really sure what's going on there. But if you look at the mobility, and these numbers are Wargaming Zone numbers, and they kind of true according to the rest of these numbers here, that it does have quite a decent mobility, 39.17 on the weight load limit. Engine power's pretty far up there, which means it has a good top speed of 65, so top in class, tied with the AMX-30. So it is quite a zippy tank. Traverse speed is decent. That's the whole traverse, not the turret traverse. You add those two together, this thing can turn and shoot. You're not going to circle this tank very well. In fact, you're not going to circle any Tier 9 medium very well. Concealment is not great. It is a fairly large tank. I don't know why it's as bad as it is, but there you have it. It's at 256. There are some that are worse. At 14, so not bad. It's actually near the top, I suppose. But most of these tanks, Tier 9 mediums, are not going to be that stealthy. Spotting, who cares? It's a useless number out there, especially above Tier 8. It just doesn't matter. And you can see that the signal range is 750. As if anybody cares what the signal range is. And that's the comparison. So does it really shine in any of these areas? I think mobility is where it shines. The fact that it does have a punchy gun, although so does nearly everybody else that we looked at right here. So fast, soft, as good a gun as anybody else, so it just doesn't really have any one thing you can hang your hat on and say, you know what, the Leopard PTA is so great because of X. And if you had to, if you were forced, if you were cornered like a rat and had to say, well, I'm going to defend the Leopard PTA and say it's an amazing tank, you would have to say it's the mobility. All right, let's move out of that there, and we'll take a look at how I have it set up, and then we'll move on to 3 examples of gameplay. As far as my setup goes, I've got all the top modules, so I'm already done with this. This tank I have owned for a very long time, about 400 battles into it, and we'll take a look at what my record is later. But as far as the setup goes, you'll see that I've got medium caliber rammer, gun laying drive, and vert stab. I think a lot of people would trade the gun laying drive for vents, just to give that overall improvement, but that's how I've got mine set up. And then I've got small, small, and large on the automatic fire extinguishers. Because the first aid kits and the repair kits get handed out like candy, you could certainly, while you were grinding it, or if you were interested in trying to see how well you can do in this tank, you'd be running large kits, obviously, on that. I'm only running with 4 heat. It has quite a loadout on the ammo, so it really doesn't have any issues running out of ammo. I've got 46 APCR, 4 heat, and 8 HE. Again, if you were looking to maximize this tank and become the greatest Leopard PTA driver of all time, you'd clearly be carrying a little bit more heat, or considerably more heat than that. I would say around 14, 16 might be acceptable, and then there would be plenty of your APCR, which, oh, by the way, didn't mention that, its standard round is APCR with all the attendant pluses and minuses that APCR have. That way people can scream at you for being a gold noob because they got hit by APCR, even though it is the standard round in the Leopard PTA. As far as my crew goes, you can see they're pretty decent. Carrying Brothers in Arms, I would really recommend Brothers in Arms with tanks like this, with guns that are good but a little wonky. That just gives that little extra capability on the gun handling with the Brothers in Arms. But Sixth Sense, the recon stuff, and situational awareness so I can see better. A little bit of camo thrown on top of these guys, and these are not really the best setups. This crew, I think, came from several different tanks, and I kludged it together at some point, or maybe it was a different tank, I don't know. They all seem to have about the same percentage, but you can see that I'm running Snapshot 4th pick. I would have already had that if I did this one right. With repairs and concealment would be at 78 right now on that tank. You can see then concealment, off-road driving, repairs, Brothers in Arms, and then we come down to here. I did have some issues with getting ammo racked on this tank, and it is painful if you get ammo racked because of the long reload, so I am carrying safe storage on my crew with this guy. Brothers in Arms, repair, and a little bit of concealment, just in case I can hide in a corner, because, fellas, this thing wants to hide if it can, or use its mobility if it cannot. All right, that is it for the setup and the crew. Quick comparison between the tanks, the tech tree. Let's look at how I have done in this tank. Jump to the service record, onto vehicles, and we will look for the Germans who are right here, and the Tier 9. Dun dun dun. Where is the guy? Those are heavies, that's why I can't see it. Here's the Leopard. No, it's a Leopard PTA. 404 battles, only running barely 53%, slightly under, actually. 1.44 on the damage, 1.63 on the destruction is not great. You can see the armor use efficiency is 0.06. That's a good indication that your armor is not so much. Experience well under 1,000, which is bad. 2,000 damage average. Like I said, this was an early tank that I got. I've had it for a very long time, and I don't play it very much. So since I actually got fairly decent at the tank, I have not really fixed many of the stats on this thing. That's my excuse, and I'm sticking to it. Damage received 1,400. 600 there, and then vehicles 1.5. That may be a little high, actually, for this tank, so I probably played it a little more aggressively than I needed to early on. All right, that is it for all the garage stuff. Let's go ahead and jump into 3 examples of how to play the Leopard PTA. First gameplay example, we are on Fisherman's Bay and the Tier 9 Leopard PTA. I think if you asked anybody, most people anyway, hey, how do you play the Leopard PTA? I think you would hear something like, it's a second line sniper, you need to stay hidden, don't get seen, stay behind your friends, all that kind of stuff. So let me give you an example of kind of that gameplay, although I am going to get forward initially and look for shots. And that has to do with the tank's speed and capability to get into positions like this. And this is a pretty common scout position, but I also like it early on for taking shots. I just plain old missed that shot on that Batchat 25T. An early shot right here and then backing right out isn't too bad, because if you get it quickly, the TDs back there probably aren't quite set and ready to shoot at you. So now I'm just going to sit here for a moment. You can look behind me on the west side, and I don't have a lot of guys getting aggressive, pushing up and helping me. So for the moment, I don't feel like I want to go over to the left and get seen, and I'm talking about right here, this little crossroads area where the rock is. If you get highlighted right there, one of those big TDs are going to start taking you out, and this tank will not bounce anything. Other mediums on occasion, say a Soviet hover medium, they might bounce something once in a while. This guy's not going to do it. I get a piece of that JT, and you see that good accuracy, and I come right back out of that bush right there, and we are playing this tank then as more a sniper, right? Second line sniper. I'm not interested in getting down and brawling with people. I'm forward enough to support with my gun, but I am not out there trying to bait shots with a non-existent turret that I just don't have the armor to do with. Alright, so the WZ's trolling there. We got quite a few scouts in the middle. There goes the Scorpion G, who's being very foolish. I come up here and look for shots as long as this bush is covering me up. But now this E5 is moving in, T26 E5, and I just can't get up in that bush because he's going to spot me pretty quick. Take a shot and unfortunately bounce off of his mantlet. Turns his turret right towards me. And now it's a little bit of a brawl here. I mean, I'm close enough, but I need to minimize my exposure on this guy. See if I can get a shot here. And he actually gets me, so that's predictable. Him and this Super Pershing are going to go right through my armor. I just do not have enough. Even the mantlet isn't that great on this tank. So I'm going to come up here and see if I can get a shot on this T55A. And you'll see that the depression got me a little bit right there. It's one thing you'll notice is this back deck is higher, so your depression towards the back on this tank is awful. So you've got to keep it sideways or forwards to make that work. So this guy's going to go this way. I'll see if I can kill him off. There he goes. And now I've got to move. Another thing to be careful with on this tank is staying in one spot like that for too long, because this is a juicy target for that big Tier 8 artillery that's sitting on the other side. If you sit there rocking back and forth and goofing around too much, they may get a shot on you. Missed that 51, that's a bummer. And both those guys shoot at me, so they both shot, and the reload's not great, but it's good enough to do this. Come out right after they shot, get a shot, and then move on back. So this is kind of what's known, I'm going to say known, but this is second line sniper or second line support. People think that that is way back, right? I'm going to be second line support, so I'm going to be way in the back, but you can actually do it from pretty close to the front as long as you are careful. And I was not careful there, so I eat another shot. Now we've got the Indian Panzer coming in. Just trying to take snaps on these guys. And I've been here quite a long time, so while I was doing this in game, I got a little bit worried that maybe the artillery might start paying attention to me. Still messing around. There goes the 54. Our 54 is looking for shots. So I'm going to go around this way and see if I can't change this up just a little bit. JT still trolling around the middle. See if I can find this 54 or 50, 55. Whatever. I can't even say this thing's number. What is it? 50, 51. That's him. You do have to be careful. This middle road is pretty good and it's a bit protected. But if you get too high, like there or maybe about where I think I'm going to show you, a bad thing happens to me. You can get hit by the snipers, and I know there's TDs back there. There has to be. There always are. Fortunately, I get a bounce off of that. Got some guys in the middle behind us, and this is where I back up and expose myself a little more than I want to, and wham, I get hammered by the 110 E3. So I'd have done much better to stay in that little V, go dark. Just a great example of with this tank, you really don't want to expose yourself if you can absolutely help it. Now that's too bad because that dude comes up and spots me, so I can't stay there anymore. I've got to get out. That is a gameplay thing that you need to learn overall. It doesn't matter what tank you're in. Pay attention to what's around you, and if you think somebody lit you, and clearly that guy was going to, because I actually saw the top of his turret right there that had cleared the ground, then you need to start moving before your sixth sense goes off, unless you really want to get hit and destroyed. It's pretty funny here, this 50-51, I'm not sure what he's doing. I miss a shot here because I can't figure out what the heck he's doing, but he comes up this ramp and nearly crashes, and then I don't quite shoot, and he backs up. Probably had a kill shot on him right there. Or close to it anyway. And now I've flexed into, no kidding, just sniping at this point. I really can't get down there with a 54, and all those guys are stacked up down there, so there's no reason to go run down there and expose myself to the 110 E3 or the Tortoise. They're doing a pretty good job dealing with them right there. I'm hoping the scout's going to light somebody up. There we go. Of course, it's the Tortoise, which is going to have some very good front armor. Going to go ahead and let this reload here, and then we will go to heat, because I'm going to need that potentially to go through the front of the 110 and the Tortoise. Looks like the team's winning over on the east. That 110 should be gone pretty soon. My guys are clearing them up on the west side, and we've got these two TDs, so we know where all their tanks are. That Indian Panzer's not long for the world. Then 4190 GF, and now I'm just being patient right here. Now I could move forward, but I don't get very far before I get spotted by the 110 E3 and the Tortoise. And the guys are already over on the west side, so there's no reason to go dive down onto that hole on the west side. There's plenty of tanks moving up it. Now I'm looking to set up a little bit of crossfire. I'm straight away on these guys, but of course the rest of my team is getting their attention off to the west side there, so I'm looking for these opportunities like that right there, and with heat and a little bit of extra pen, I'm able to go through him. Unfortunately, that goes, I'm not sure what that hit, the ground I think, or maybe his track. And we just have a piece of him here, so we can sneak one into the side. Nope, it does hit him, but it does not go through. And I'm shooting heat into the side tracks there. That's going to be problematic. And now we'll come to the next thing that you're going to do. And I probably should have done this a little bit earlier, but when you are being second line sniper, you're playing a careful tank like this PTA, there is a point where you do need to move forward, get up in their face, and start eating up the rest of their hit points. And now I feel pretty good about that because the Tortoise has slid backwards a bit. He's being threatened from the east side over there, and I'm going to use some of these bushes right here to move forward. So I'm going to leapfrog bush to bush, try to keep bushes as much as possible between me and him. And now I'm going to come up underneath these guys, start lighting them up, and see if I can't find some more damage. And this is where the Leopard PTA, remember the strength I talked about? If you were cornered and had to say it had one, it was kind of mobility and a decently punchy gun. So we're just going to come up here. I'm going to protect myself. Get into the back there. Protect myself from the 110E3 shooting me. And the tortoise is just... Whether he doesn't notice me or he's just standing in there because he knows he's screwed, he does that. And off he goes. And then I make a mistake here. I come up on this 110E3. Instead of backing up, I try to push in. I immediately go left and I'm right. And I'm like, no, don't do it. And he just spins and hits me right there. Decent likelihood of him missing me right there, but he didn't. Of course. Why would he? End up with 4390 on the damage. And there's a good example of kind of that sniper second line Leopard PTA gameplay. Let's move on to the next one where we work in a city map. All right, here we are on a city map. We're in Ensk, which is a relatively small, constrained map. Not a lot of places to do standoff and second-line sniper stuff. So what I decided to do in this battle is I'm going to support my heavies in the heavy brawl area. This is a theme that I do quite a bit with my mediums, and the Leopard PTA is okay at that role, but this is more a situation of the map and the team and the situation has forced me to play in a certain way, vice the way I'd really want to play the Leopard PTA. We'll see how effective I can be doing that. I did consider the fact that I could go over to the field, but if you look at the enemy team, they're carrying two TVP 50/1s and a Malshin, the other mediums, the T-54, the Centurion, the Schwartz, and some artillery. So between the artillery and getting gunned down by the 50/51s, I decided to go into the city and help out the team. It seems that the team sort of understands this as well, so we're going to get quite aggressive here in the city early on. People are going to push right past and go after these guys. But when you make a decision like this, especially if you're running a medium, then you have to understand if the other flank falls and your cap gets threatened, you've got to get back. Sooner, vice later. So let's see how that actually works out for me. As I'm watching this happen, then the 103, the 34, the E50, the Patton, they're all pushing right into the city. It seems that everybody's got the same idea. So initially I'm thinking, well, I'll be second line, I'll sit back and snipe a little bit, even though I'm pretty close. And I say, well, I need to get in there and support. There's no reason to sit back there anymore. These guys are really pushing in here. So I'm going to do that annoying medium thing. I'm going to come right around people and just get right in their face. Go around the Malshin, use him, shield myself from getting hit. Oh, for the 34B right there. I have a problem right here with that back deck. See how it's keeping my gun up? That stunk on ice. I still couldn't get the stupid gun in. I finally get that shot. There's the Centurion. Take him down. But you can see what's developing over on the other side. And I actually don't notice that right away. But a shot on the 54. There goes the 34B. Now, if I'd have gone back right now, we might have had a chance. Because it's not actually, we're not actually getting crushed too badly. And I unfortunately get rammed by this stupid 50M. Just trying to, dude, let me get by here, man. So I do not notice, and I don't notice what's going on back at the cap. I'll let you know when it happens here. Until about, these guys are just raging in there. And we're just made a huge mistake. And this is a pretty rookie move for a team to just all pile forward. There's no one really going back. And now I decide, well, I got to go back. But unfortunately, there's a T-95 sitting right here. Let's see if I can go around behind him. We got 16 seconds to do this. Clearly they know I'm coming. There's the stupid T-95. I'm able to track him so he can't turn and shoot me. I'm just hoping against hope to get a shot on these guys. Our KV-4 pulls back and I just can't quite get it. 1 second, 0 seconds. Nope, nobody's able to do it. Put a shot on him. Looks like we actually reset him, but we didn't. It's just the game is over. It's just waiting to end. So, nope. There you go. You get that few extra seconds after you kill one, just in case you can clear them all off, which did not happen. And so we end up getting defeated. So, an example of going in and supporting the heavies in the heavy area, using your mobility to get around and cause an issue. As you can see, this game is not really an auto loss. If somebody had gone back a little earlier, that's somebody probably being me. Now, I might have got jumped pretty quickly, but maybe we get enough guys back. We got the Patton, the E50, the E75. Maybe we get enough guys back to actually keep them from capping out this thing. So just a mistake on my part on gameplay, not necessarily a negative for the tank itself. You can see with the speed and the mobility of the tank, it certainly had the capability of getting back in time. And ideally, I'd have not come right up the middle. Once I saw this happening, I'd have just spun around, come up this road on the west side, and started working some spots and lights and shots in here, trying to reset this. So this ended up being a loss, 2,300 damage, but again, a good example of being able to use this tank according to the situation. Is it its strong suit? No. Can it actually do it? Yeah, the mobility and the firepower actually helps out in those situations, supporting your heavies. Let's move on to the third and final example. For the third example, it's a bit of a hybrid between the first two, whereas the first map that we played on was usually a very static sniping kind of map where the second line sniper thing worked out. And the second map was a very constrained city map where brawling is more or less in order. This map, which is Murovanka, is a bit of a hybrid because while there are some static sniping capabilities, there are also more opportunities for flanking on this map, especially if one flank or the other goes down. Usually what happens is people head off into this forest, and the team that wins the forest, or simply takes it because the other team doesn't really push into it, is able to start flanking the other team over on the west side of the map. So I will take initially a position thinking, well, all right, let's start off with the second line sniper thing. Let's support the guys that are moving up. I don't want to be the first one up there because I don't have the turret, even though my depression is probably good enough to start working over there. If I get faced with 3 or 4 enemies, I can get destroyed very quickly. But look how many guys we have. So I changed my mind pretty quickly. Now I'm going to move up, and because of my speed and mobility, I'm going to be able to come up here and start supporting these guys who got close. And because they haven't really seen anything there, I'm fairly confident that the enemy hasn't sent a whole bunch. So I'll take a slightly more aggressive line. See if I don't get lit by the T100. That's good. I did not. And now I'm sort of waiting here. I don't want to be the first guy poking around, but I am looking for an opportunity here. And I'm not certain. I'm thinking, well, there's got to be some tanks here somewhere. And hey, look at this. There goes the 57 heavy. So I'm able to use that pretty good gun. Take a shot on him. He's making a run for it. And we'll just shoot in here. I don't know if I actually hit him. And back up. Alright, so I said initially second line sniper. I'm sort of waiting to see what happens. I said this is a more wide open map. And it has flanking opportunities. So I think everyone knows what's going on here. We've got the ring around the rosy thing going on. Most of their tanks have headed over to the west. A good portion of ours have headed over to the east. So the key now is for us to get back and start flanking the enemy. We've owned this whole side of the map. It's much easier for people who in the forest and the east side of the map to come back over to the west side and start flanking. First we're going to take a few shots on these dudes. There's another shot on 57 heavy. I wish I'd actually aimed at him a little longer. I probably would have had another shot as he got out of draw range there. But there goes the T100, and no more shots on the 57 because he goes dark. So let's use the mobility of the Leopard PTA. Nice fast tank, and let's go ahead and come in on the flank side of the rest of the enemy tanks, which are either camping in their forest area back here in the southwest, or are stacked up along here, or potentially in this middle area as well. 4502B and our 110E3 are still doing yeoman's work over there, holding those guys off, so at least they didn't get overrun and crushed. Now I'm looking for shots. This is a bit dangerous for Leopard PTA. I'm getting a little more aggressive than usual. I'm going to come around here because I think I can get some side shots on the 103, and this is where, again, that mobility comes through. Now I'm more of a flanker, kind of doing that scout flanker thing. I get hammered by a grill, which shoots me from cover and does not get unlit, or does not get lit. That's concerning because I really don't have many options with him. And I see the tortoise coming, so really my only option now is to get out of here. And there you go, you can see that that tank, Leopard PTA, will get punished if it gets caught out in the open like that. So let's move back, put a little more terrain between me and them, and start working the flank once again. So we'll come up top, we'll look for shots of opportunity. Some guys right there. I'm thinking, oh, I got... No, dang it. Does not go through. There's the tortoise there. My concern is, where is that grill? If I can find him and know that he is not a problem anymore. There's the AT. Quick shot at him and miss. Super Conqueror has moved up onto that hill, so I'm pretty confident that grill... There he is. He's backed off. So fantastic. I'm going to move back into my flanking enfilade fire position. Enfilade, whatever it is. Moving in here to shoot this guy. Put a shot onto the tortoise. Now he turns towards me. And this is pretty typical of what happens when one side wins the force and the other one sort of tries to turtle up and camp on this side of the map. You can see that our guys have come around on the south side. Shot into the grill. I owed him one. They've come around on the south side. They're shooting them in the back. The 4502 and the 110E3 did good work and are still alive, and now we're just crushing these guys from every single direction. And again, another strength of the Leopard PTA with this mobility is able to get in and get those flanking fire kind of shots. So like I said, kind of a hybrid. Initially a bit of thought, hey, I think I'm going to do this as a second line sniper, and then you react to how the game is going. Be careful with T-49s because they can pin me and erase me right there. React to how the game is going and move accordingly. So come around here. I actually thought that T-44 fired, but for some reason he still had a shot. Somebody else must have fired in there. So I get a shot on him, come up, find the artillery, auto aim, stop, let it zoom in, and then he is down. So 3,403 kills on that. Like I said, showing you an example of sort of the hybrid game. The strengths of the tank, the mobility, the ability to flank on certain maps, certain situations. Obviously, that is something you can do with this tank to great effect. Alright guys, well that is it for the Leopard PTA. Hopefully you like what you saw and you learned something in there. If you did, make sure you subscribe to the channel, support the channel, all that good stuff. And as always, we will see you.